It is. Good evening. Welcome to the February 10th meeting of the Aiken City Council. If you're inclined, please rise for the invocation, followed by the pledge. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, send down upon those who hold office in the city of Aiken the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. In your name we pray. Amen. Chief, would you come and lead us in the pledge, please?
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Before the meeting begins, I will review the guidelines. Meetings are public forums in which many opinions are expressed, and the business of the city must be conducted. As such, discipline, honorable, and professional decorum is paramount. Courteous and respectful communication is required. During public hearings, all questions and statements from the public should be directed to the chair. If you wish to speak, raise your hand and I will recognize you. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. In order to allow an opportunity for everyone who wishes to address council, speakers should limit their comments to the subject being discussed. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes to address an issue and may only address an issue once unless questions from council are posed to the speaker. During the non-agenda public comment section, each speaker has 3 minutes and can only speak once. We now move to additions and deletions to the agenda. I recognize Mayor Pro Tem Ed Girardeau for his agenda item.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Where'd the warm weather go? I even sort of dressed springy, and that didn't work. I guess it's my fault. All right, similar to what we did last week, we're going to move items 7 and 8. Last week they were new business. This week they are old business. So, item 7 is an ordinance to amend the historic designation of Friendship African Baptist Church complex located at the southeastern corner of Richland Avenue and Kershaw Street. And as well, we're going to move number 8, which is an ordinance designating the Boswick Hitchcock Stables located on tax parcel number 105-12-0106, Lawrence Street Southwest, as non-contributing structures under the City of Aiken Historic Preservation Ordinance. We're going to move those up to number 2 and number 3, which means we will read them in after the approval of appointments and discussion of appointees in the number 1 slot. So I present that to you, Mayor, as a motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Brohl, second the motion. All in favor? Motion approved. Thank you. The minutes were provided to council for review prior to the meeting. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. We'll take Councilman Waltz and Councilwoman Gregory as the second motion. Thank you. Any comments or changes? All in favor? Thank you. Motion passed. We have one presentation this evening. The presentation is from the Friends of Hopelands and Rye Patch to share their annual review of events, accomplishments, and needs for Hopelands and Rye Patch. Dr. Holly Waltz and any other presenters, will you please come to the podium? Could you hear me? Good evening.
I'm Dr. Holly Waltz. I reside at 524 York Street in Aiken. And this is Michael Cowan, who is our president-elect. And you tell where you live.
And I live at 162 Longwood Green Court in Aiken.
I think you know me. This is the 3rd time that I've been up here talking with you all. And I thought that it would be a wonderful idea to try to get as many trustees as we could. So we have a crowd back here of trustees, prospective trustees, and also impassioned advocates for Hopelands and Rye Patch. So I know you have a packed agenda. I'll just keep it going. In just a minute, this is on. And it's not moving. Ah, there it is. Okay. So we all know Hopelands Gardens and Rye Patch, 23 acres. It is truly a place of history. It is a place of absolute wonderful buildings, gazebos. This is the Joan Tower gazebo. I'm kind of leading you on a guide because it's so hard in our busy lives to find the time for respite, for serenity, for walks. And here in our city, minutes away, we have this wonderful place. So we have the lakes, we have Hope Goddard Island. Wow, this is really sensitive. It's kind of, oh, you're doing it? It's just not working. I was gonna say, okay. I was gonna say, okay, thank you. So anyway, history, beauty, nature, and something that you might not realize, because in the past couple of years, following the hope of Hope Goddard Island, of teaching children nature, the curiosity of science, she really wanted education to happen in these gardens. And that is now happening. As you can see on the next slide, we have Nature Rocks. Unfortunately, it was canceled due to Helene this past October. Sean Poppy is here. He's a wonderful help with this, with the Savannah River Ecology Lab. A group of organizations and clubs, Kathy Wise, Tommy Culligan, they put this together for an afternoon on a Sunday for friends, family, children, and it's 3 hours of fun and just happiness, education. It's open to everyone, and it's become a really big draw. The master gardeners are over there on the left. Lots and lots of things going on at Nature Rocks. The other thing that is going on with education is HOPE in capital letters, and that stands for Hopelands Outdoor Premier Education. This is new this past year, and one session was canceled due to Helene, but we collaborate with the USC Aiken Ruth Patrick Science Center. And so we have children, let's go to the next one. We have programs in the spring and also the fall where school buses come in from different schools for the morning, 9 to 12:30. And there are 3 professors certified in outdoor education, and the classes that they have are unbelievable. Some of them are good-natured detectives, discovering Mother Nature, learning about life and land, insect investigators. And so this spring, starting on March 20th, we will have a rotating group. 8 schools come in on a day during the week, and we will have 685 students total participating in this program. They are learning nature, science, horticulture, history. They are taking advantage of Hopelands Gardens and Rye Patch. It is an awesome, awesome program. And I would be happy to share the dates with you so you could come and just watch for 30 minutes or whatever. You'll get excited. So we have nature going on, we have education going on, we have history going on, and we have worked out a great collaboration with the city because, with the next one, Aiken's Choice Award, look at what we received. Best place to propose, best place to take a tourist, best local historic landmark, best place for a first date, and best place for live music. If you've participated in the well, not participated, but been there at the, I can't carry a tune, been there for a concert, it's wonderful. Thousands. The Paris Island Marine Corps Band, we have over 1,000 people sitting on the lawn at the amphitheater. It's great. And then we are always reminded to people in various magazines. In this one, Islands in January of 2025, you might not have seen it. I kind of laughed at the eccentric and creative South Carolina destination named the best small town of the South. That was 2018. But look what they had front and center, the Joan Tower gazebo. Again, Hopelands. Hopelands and Rye Patch, they are important to the city. They are important to each and every one of us, children and adults alike. And so that's why we're here, to entertain you, educate you, and also ask for more money. Sorry. So we have a lovely sign generously donated by the Newbern family. My guru, every president, I mean, she knows everything about the history, and she is here tonight. But when you go into the gardens, you start seeing some problems and some things that could be changed. You have a pretty crummy sign. We'll talk about that later. We have water, we have sand in places, we have garbage cans that don't match. It's a work in progress. Gardens always need care, right? Your garden does. Well, these are 23 acres. Think of it. It's a massive job. Next. So we are truly, truly grateful. Smiles, thank you, handshakes to you all, because you are paying attention to us. You expanded the staff. You gave us a new irrigation system, which was a game changer. Have a new garden, you'll see it shortly, aggregate sidewalks, pressure washing, granite edging. You'll be sharing the cost with us, the Friends, for new signage, more on that. We're finally, yay Lex, gonna start a volunteer program, slow but sure. The cleanup from Helene was unbelievable. Couple of months and it was open for Christmas at Hopelands. A standard, a tradition for everybody. And there is Aaron Campbell standing next to a massive pine tree. We did not have massive trees go down, iconic trees, but we still had 17 come down and so much vegetation in the way of loropetalums, azaleas, etc. The serpentine wall, look at the hit that it took, several places. The steel fence. Helene put us behind the 8 ball. We are working with you wonderfully, I hope, Lex and Jessica. We have worked hard to update bylaws, investment strategy, refreshing our website, starting a newsletter. We believe in communication. We're working with you on signage, refinished Rye Patch outdoor furniture, the collaborations with USC Aiken. We helped Susan Kleinbub, a trustee, did the creative design for the Island Garden. We shared in the cost. $5,000 we donated for new trees. Daffodils are coming up, y'all. 1,000 of them. And of course, we always sponsor concerts and story time sessions. We are active. There's the Hope Goddard Island new garden. Now, we'll be discussing this because unfortunately, this is a formal white garden, boxwoods, hydrangeas, took a hit, not from Helene, but from Michael's foes, deer. More on that. The signs, those dilapidated, ugly kiosk signs have got to go. Look at it. It's broken, got all sorts of messages and posters on it. And we have in front of Lex and Stuart and the powers that be a new design for two signs taking the place of the kiosk for Hopelands. And they are made of wrought iron. They have the floral leaves, echoing horticulture on the legs. And if you'll see the design on the very top, that echoes the round emblem that's on the gates. So we are working on those two signs, a sign for Rye Patch in front of the stables, and also interior or wayfinder signs. Limited number, but visitors get lost all the time. So we're working on that. Aaron is hard at work with his staff, planting. We've got a new garden there. But we still have problems that need to be addressed. Last year, erosion. Hopelands Gardens at the top level, and also the lakes around the amphitheater. Deer, they eat everything. They are a pain in the neck. The fencing from Serpentine Wall around to the new sign and over to the Oak LA. It's a hodgepodge of chain link, of round brick. Patsy's Garden, Rose Garden, where are the roses? Bird and Butterfly Garden, the flag area, and the area in front of the stage. Total of $610,000. You have an individual sheet, so you don't have to shuffle through your agenda right there in front of you, so you can look at those numbers in the listing. Next. Erosion. You know, water does damage. Sand keeps coming and moving. We've made progress. Finally got a machine. I don't remember the name of it, Lex, that Sand Pro, that smooths out all of this. And it looks good, but the problem is still there. And then when you go down to the lakes, next slide, we have the holding wood falling apart. Of course we do. It's over 35 years old. The walkways could be a problem for people. It's not, the edges are going away. Next. Deer. If you have any questions about deer, Michael has done a lot of research with biologists and DNR. 6 feet won't do it. We need higher. Deer can jump over 6 feet. He has some numbers, 8 feet with an electric wire or something like that. I took a picture of that beautiful little fawn and also said, "Get out of here." They're everywhere. Next. This is the fencing I'm talking about. The fencing that is on your resources needed, 150,000 estimated. We've pledged the Friends $55,000 towards this project to get rid of, next slide, to get rid of this chain link, to continue the serpentine wall and go down the parking lot and get rid of the non-historic brick curved wall, which is, next slide, cracked. Rose garden, tell me where the roses are. Why? Because of the deer. And because we don't have people who can take care of it. Talking about possibly a volunteer rose group. But we have these roses, what are they called? Knockout roses. Yeah. We have knockout roses. We have this bulbous Yopon holly or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yopon holly stuck everywhere, and the aggregate sidewalk is shifting and becoming a possible hazard, so it's being ground down. It's not particularly attractive, is it? That needs to be redone. Next. Robert Marvin, the noted Southern landscape architect who did the gardens, believed that gardens should be refreshed, replanted every 15 years. He stated that in 1995. 35 years later, we still haven't done some. Now we have to add the devastation of Hurricane Helene. Double whammy. So again, bird and butterfly garden, the flag area. Keep going. Some of this has been corrected. This looks so much better. It's trimmed up. This is the area where weddings are. We could still get the ivy off of that wonderful little peekaboo brick. It's a lot of work. Garden area is getting worked on in front of Rye Patch. Hooray. We've buried the gutters and the drains. It's great. It's getting there. Next. Where's the flag? There was a flag right there where that cone is. How do you think the Paris Island Marine Corps band will feel when there's no flag there? What about all the people who sit on the amphitheater area and they don't see a flag? And they see the front of the Roland H. Wyndham Performing Arts stage and the cracked concrete and liriope, and Aaron had to clean off the dead vegetation on the trellises, needs to be replanted. That's not a good sight for all the people coming to see and hear concerts. Next. Again, devastation, desolate areas. We had a beautiful hybrid big leaf magnolia. I called it a saucer magnolia. That one hurt. That's gone. Keep going. Shrubbery's gone. The area along Berry Road, it's desolate. It's just wood chips and leaves. We need plantings there. This old lady is crying for more attention. Outside, and look what's inside. We have furniture that, look at the arms. There are holes. There's no fabric there. We need to reupholster it. Have an estimate of $16,000. Nothing's cheap anymore, is it? I mean, so these are hopper penguins. I loved it. They look tough. They've got grit. They're holding hands. They live in cold. I would like us to be them and go on with Hopelands Gardens and Rye Patch together, hand in hand, communicating well, sharing monies, and make these properties even more beautiful for everybody who visits. Are there any questions? Yes. There's quite a, that was one example of a
That for
chair
all of the furniture in Rye Patch?
downstairs. I think we could do better.
Do better, as
And,
in,
and we would, that was a professional estimate, expensive fabric.
are you gonna stay with that fabric?
Can't find that fabric. It's years old. Or if you can find it, please, let me know.
No, I wasn't suggesting
Yeah,
that.
I've talked to Jenny Goodyear a lot, especially about the rose garden, and she's very excited about the possibility. And she said, I took her through Rye Patch, and she noticed the furniture and said, what are you gonna do about that? And I said, hopefully, recover if we can find fabric. And she said, oh, wonderful. Any other
My
questions?
feelings toward Hopeland Gardens,
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. I said, you know how I feel about
Yes.
Hopeland Gardens. It's very near and dear to my heart. I got married there in
Yep.
1980, seems so long ago. Uh, And I know the last time we came out, you and Councilman Reggie Ebner, who is in our audience, took us on a good tour, and yeah,
Anna
we went
was
to,
there also. Anna.
Right.
Yep.
and we were very displeased with what we saw. The grounds were not looking good at all, and I can imagine they're looking even worse after Hurricane Helene.
Well, Aaron did an extraordinary job, and he pulls people. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say this. He borrows people to help out at Hopelands, in times of emergency and when more hands are needed. When I went over there and kind of snuck in to look and worried about it, such devastation. And to have it cleaned up, Lex really wanted it cleaned up and open at Christmas. That was amazing.
I know.
So we have received many compliments about the condition, the changes that are happening.
And we certainly are grateful for Aaron and the rest of our staff that are out there, but also to the friends of Hopelands and Rye Patch for all the work y'all do. It's a lot of money,
Costs money,
I know,
takes time.
but it's a good
planning.
investment,
Yeah.
so.
Madam Mayor, I have a question. Dr. Wools, two things. How many people do you have on your staff? And secondly, just for the public information, can you give an estimate of the number of tours or the number of individuals that tour your location, or our location at Hopelands on an annual basis? I know we had some issues with Helene, but generally, the tourist attraction there.
I think Amber Coffey would be a better person to ask that. She's not here. She's with the tourism group.
Okay.
She keeps count of numbers, and that report.
Doesn't Alan do
I don't think she's here. Okay. When we have our annual meeting, y'all are invited, and others as well. We have reports from the city and stats about that, okay, about visitation, and I don't know if Lex or Aaron could, or Jessica.
Jessica.
Now, their staff that is there at Hopelands, three people.
Okay.
Used to have one
Right.
for 23 acres. I remember you all just being aghast when we said that at a previous. So there's 3 now for the trustees, the Friends. There's 36 trustees, 5 officers. We don't have a staff. We're purely volunteers. My
Okay.
poor husband seats me up in my office and my laptop late at night.
Just a note, my father was the caretaker at Hopelands for
Yes.
many years. But I just wondered for the audience, I know that there are thousands of folks that tour, but
Yes.
it's a great number in terms of folks wanting to see the scenic area, so.
I think, I might be wrong, Lex, I sort of saw the number for Christmas at Hopelands, visitors, 17,000. Okay. It averages 17, I think last year it was 23,000.
Okay.
And that's only for 12 days or something. It's not a long period.
Dr. Woltz, I'm sorry, Ms. Leslie.
Yeah. I'm
Did I
finished.
answer everything?
Yes, you did. Thank
Okay.
you.
Is the 23,000 just visitors, or does that include the tours as well?
When you say tours, we tried that. Actually, Alan is the premier, and he's still doing it. He does history tours. We tried to get adult education with tours and classes at the guest cottage and things like that. We did it for 1 year, and it was just too much to coordinate with the city, to have a friend there while a tour or a class was going on. So right now, and I haven't talked to Alan, I don't know if he's going to continue this year. His history tour, and he worked very hard at it, was very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kudos to Mr. Riddick, because, I
Yes,
mean, I get compliments off of his tours all the time. And people love him
Absolutely.
doing that.
It was fun doing it. Oh, and I forgot, because of his help, something that is finally going to happen is we're going to have historical markers put up by the South Carolina History Archives Department or something like that. Going to have a historical marker where people literally follow those and visit the places. So that is a marketing tool for the city of Aiken. We'll have one, we're not sure where to place it, but for Hopelands as well as Rye Patch. That's coming this year when the backlog of them is updated.
Just to point this out, is your number was 610,000. And if there's approximately 23,000 visitors a year, we're looking at about a $26.52 per person cost.
Now, that visitor number that I said was just for Christmas. We don't keep
Right.
count.
So it's even
Every
less.
So,
It's even less. So, which is good, because I don't see $26.52.
no, that's just Christmas at Hopelands.
Yeah, so we're probably even looking at, I mean, half of that at
Oh,
least.
easily.
And I just wonder if the Friends and the city jointly have looked at grants for these types of things. I know Jessica is all over the grant situation, but because of the historical nature, and if you really kind of slice and dice it down by visitors and the programmization, I wonder if that's an approach we can take first, or have we already done that, of course, I'm assuming.
I think Jessica has some information.
In my folder system about Hopelands and Rye Patch that I inherited from Anna, there is history of grants being applied for, being received. We have 2 foundations. The Island Foundation, $27,000 grant was given for the education for hope. The Mills Foundation, actually, another foundation grant system, gave gave us recently $25,000 to help with the cleanup of Helene. And that's going towards the fencing there at the entry area, along with money from our pot.
I just think it's so necessary for us to maintain Hopeland Gardens. It's a staple in our community. It draws economic development. It draws people into our community. We're looking at accommodations. We're looking at all kinds of tax benefits. And I think we, as we go into budget season, have to consider funding this somehow or other. I do strongly believe that, but of course, I also believe we need to go after every other option that may be available at the state and local level when it comes to grants, when it comes to matching. So I'd be interested to hear about that, Jessica. I know you probably have gone down that road already, so, because she's amazing and so proactive. But I'd like to see that or hear about it, and hopefully Dr. Holly move forward with conversations on supporting this, because I'm very passionate about Hopeland Gardens and the Rye Patch, as are my colleagues, I'm
I
sure.
would love to pursue grants. They're tough, and I know these people are working hard
Yeah,
at other places to find money.
yes.
Ah,
I'd be happy to speak on the two items, one being attendance. So if you look in today's council agenda packet, you'll see our December monthly report for our department.
Right.
It has a section for Hopelands Gardens and Rye Patch. We are able to track attendance of programs and events, visitors at the Carriage Museum, and visitors at the Thoroughbred Racing Hall of Fame. We have no way to currently track attendance for daily visitors. We don't have anyone
Okay.
counting with a clicker, so to speak, of daily walk-ins. With our new software that our tourism division's been utilizing for a year now called Placer, we may have a way to do an annual look at attendance, and so I've tasked staff to look into that and see if we can get you those numbers. But currently, all that you're going to see in our annual reports is something that we can track. They're signing in on a visitor sign-in
Right.
sheet, or we have staff there at an event where we can count. Such as Nature Rocks, we do a good estimate because we have staff at that. So our monthly reports provide that information. And then grants, we've applied for an undiscovered grant for 2 years consecutively through our state Recreation and Parks Department, and have not been awarded that as of those 2 years. So we probably should look into some other opportunities with that. And I can't speak for what Lex has looked into, but with our new grants administrator, I'm sure that's on their radar. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Waltz.
I just want to say you've got an excellent board, Dr. Wills, and a huge thanks to your board members for the support they give to the city and to you
Yep.
as your leadership tool as well.
absolutely. We have great people on the Friends,
Yes.
and we're always looking for more.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
for
Thank you both.
listening and being enthusiastic.
We now open the floor to public comments on non-agenda items. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. I see someone already back there, and for a total of 30 minutes, and please try and stay to the 3 minutes so that I don't have to wave my hands and carry on. Thank you. Yes. Good evening.
Evening, Mayor, Council, Jacob Ellis. We just had a wonderful presentation on Hopeland Gardens about the history of it, how important it is to keep up its history and the surrounding areas of it. Aiken is nothing without its history. Aiken, for a small town, is more unique than any other small town in the southeast, and I say the whole country, for its benefits of the winter colony, SRS, the influx of tourism and retirees. It is painstakingly important to preserve that history. This book right here, I got in the 4th grade, The ABCs of the History of Aiken County by Town and Country magazine. It's almost 30 years old. I was lucky enough to take a class in elementary school teaching the importance of history. We must do the same to preserve it and teach the next generation the importance of history. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Is this when I speak to the Hitchcock Stables issue? Okay, then I will raise my hand later.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jensen James. I live at 138 Florence Street, Southwest. That's amazing. It's so awesome to learn more about what Hopeland Gardens has in plan and what they need. While they're redoing some new things, think about accessibility. As a disability rights advocate, I'm thinking about how we can make these things more accessible, because when they were first created, that was not in mind. But since some of those, like sidewalks and things that could in theory be widened to ADA and to accommodate for people who may be in a wheelchair. I actually remember when I used to work for the tourism department, I would go out occasionally on the to and assist. And we had a couple of times where we had people who wanted to go and enjoy the gardens who were older and weren't as mobile as they might otherwise would have liked to have been. They were unfortunately unable to go out to fully enjoy those gardens. So in thinking about the budget and how much money may or may not need to be allocated to that, I hope that you'll take in consideration that there may be more funds that may be needed to make it ADA accessible. Also, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Penny Williams. I live at 245 Switchgrass Run. Tonight I'm here to talk about, or to represent the residents of the Sanctuary neighborhood on Powderhouse Road. I lived here for 13 years, and I had to move to Atlanta because of work, which was horrible. When I got the opportunity to move back, I jumped on it because I love this area. I was the fourth person to purchase a house in the Sanctuary neighborhood, and they just recently got a contract on their 50th home, so it is growing, and they've got a lot more to go. What we want to address was the cost of our monthly water bills. We have spoken to people at the city, and that neighborhood is not currently annexed. My water bill every month, the sewer portion is in excess of $85 a month. And I shouldn't say this in front of everybody, but I live by myself, right? So I shouldn't see water bills that are, a total of 120 plus each month. And all the residents are seeing that. So we are requesting that we be annexed. I mean, when I lived here before, my water bills were nowhere near that amount. And we understand that right across the street from the entrance to the neighborhood and right down the street is annexed as well. So we're requesting that we be annexed to try and reduce those bills. Any questions? No?
And I can say for your question, we're waiting on the Maybaum is waiting on the final plat for the second phase to be approved by the county planning department and then have it recorded at the Register of Deeds office. So he expects to file that annexation petition in the next 30 days.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Becky Phillips. My property is not in the county. It's in the county, not in the city, but I've lived in the city, 20-something years before I moved to California. The Hopeland Garden things, I don't agree with that at all. Paying $16,000 for upholstery, they maybe need to get a couple more bids. Robert, my husband, we came out 3 years ago. He loved it. He especially loved the thoroughbred part. But he asked, it don't cost nothing, Rebecca. How come they don't have donation jars around? You got a donation jar, somebody pop a 20 real quick in there. And their friend dropped a 20, well, I better drop a 50. I was a waitress, and the cook, which was the owner, they stopped it when they found out it was the owner. That thing would be piled of money. But you got to put it out there for them to see. I don't think that the city, because you got Girl Scouts can help, you got kids at school, they can go and clean. It's got to be a community thing, and it shouldn't be the taxpayers have to pay for Hopeland Gardens. And I was here when they first opened it. I've been here since I was 18 months old, and I'm 63. I'm minus 40 years, but I came in and out seeing Mom and Daddy. Nowhere did I understand that the city was forking over the money. I have a problem with that. And you're paying $16,000 to sit on upholstery, and you got homeless out there that you bypass and you don't even look at. I have a problem. I'll speak on, is it the alley that y'all speaking about, the drinking? I'll speak then. Last 2 weeks ago I spoke, and I've never turned around and asked. 3 people had heat out of all these people. A man never seen before, didn't know me, didn't know that I've been coming for almost 2 years, minus 6 months being in California. When I turned around and I said, come on, y'all, he said, she's a mental case, is the police here? And the pastor sat beside him, and I said something to him later on in the week. He said, yep, I heard him. Keep your comments to yourself, please. I didn't sleep that night. It hurt my feelings. I'm here not because I'm homeless. I'm here to speak for them because they have no mouth. Thank you.
Good evening, Pastor Kurt Johnson, 114 Brewster Way, Aiken. Lost Sheep Ministries, and I'm also the co-pastor of Hope Team, along with Lex Perry. Just a little update of what we've done this last week. We've gotten 10 people IDs. That's a major thing, because this way they can start working toward getting jobs. They get a phone from the government. They can get their health care just by having that ID. We've also been able to go out into these encampments and talk to these people about cleaning up themselves, cleaning up their areas, which is helping out the community. We're not just sitting back. I mean, that's one big thing that people think that we're doing. We're not sitting back. We're going forward with everything that we're doing for these people and for the community. We're not just here for the homeless. We're here for Aiken. And we want you all to know that. Plus, we're very thankful to you all for the opportunity that you're giving us with the use of the space that you've given us, but by just backing what we are doing. And that's about all we've got right now, but we are moving forward. And we have gotten 3 people jobs, and we've gotten 3 people off the streets. So that's a good thing. So it's always moving forward. And this isn't by us, it's by the grace of God. But yes, and also by what you guys are doing for us as well. So we thank you, and we thank the community as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is difficult to come up here being a former city employee. However, I'm coming because of my love.
Your address.
Charles Miller, 98 Bridge Creek Trail, Aiken, South Carolina. Sorry. I'm coming because of my love and concern for this community. I'm also here for fellow public safety officers, as I was one. I was a fireman in 1972. I was the first one to do public safety till 82. I came back in 2016 and worked 5 years till I had COVID and had to retire. And then I did part-time as a business license inspector, but I stepped down to be able to step forward now freely. But I'm here for the other officers, the driver operators, and volunteers who are not at liberty to speak as freely as I am. One thing I learned during my time at the public safety is when seconds count, we're minutes away. Remember that. When seconds count, we're minutes away. I'm also coming because I think the public safety concept needs to be split. We need a police department and a fire department, two separate. It's not fair for the officers to fight fire, then get back out without deconning, and then going back out on the road and facing the stuff they face on a daily basis. Firefighting is fatiguing, and that's not a good concept for them. In April of 2022, Aiken Department of Public Safety was dispatched to Reed Street for a structure fire with entrapment. The fire was located on the BC corner of the house, which is on the left-hand side of the house, the back corner. After the fire was knocked down and entry was made through the rear of the home, the occupant was found approximately 4 feet from the front door under sheetrock that had been knocked down during firefighting activities. That occupant was deceased. It is of my opinion that we, and when I say we, that includes you, we did not give that individual the opportunity to be saved. We don't have firefighters on the truck with bunker gear on, air packs, like other cities and municipalities of our size. There's only 2 public safeties in the state of South Carolina now. That's us and North Augusta. North Augusta has 1/3 of the calls this department has. This tragedy and others can be prevented. I highly recommend, again, that the policing and firefighting are they're 2 entirely different professions. It's time that they be used for the intended purposes of saving lives and property. I know that Aiken is rated as a Class 2 fire department, and that's high, but that's on paper only. That's all the ISO comes and looks at.
Thank you, Charlie.
So in closing, I would like to recommend, and I'm going to leave this resume of a gentleman. They do go around and do evaluations, and they're called the evaluations Standard of Cover and Deployment. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John Durgans. I live at 203 Pine Hill Drive in the county. And I'd like to ask you, what gave you the right to privatize the public park for the soccer team? We not only, I imagine, because I'm not in organized sports, but I imagine the baseball teams and whatever, soccer teams, whatever, they have to pay a fee and make arrangements for when you're going to play and everything else. But for these people, all of a sudden, it's carte blanche. They put a fenced in the whole park, place with a lock on the gate, and nobody else can go in there now. The public park is for the public, but you're privatizing the thing. I've seen this before in another state, where it just goes on and on and on. Next thing, you're going to have billboards up. You're going to advertise. You're going to teach you how to play this and how to play that, and those people. It just goes on and on with things. You know, can you ask me how you privatize a public park? You seem to be on television being very excited over this. Where's the excitement?
No, it's not privatized. I mean, it's going to be a dedicated field for soccer. The Aiken Football Club is running our soccer program. We've heard for years that we would that one of the needs for our recreation program is to have a dedicated soccer facility, and I think this helps fulfill it. It helps with expediting the fundraising for that. It's going to be just a great amenity, so it's not been privatized.
Well, the way it looks, putting a fence up to fence the whole area in so nobody else can go in there, to play any other sports or to fly a kite or to walk their dog or anything else. That's how it's just, to me, like I said, I've seen this in another state. It's just one step to go up to what else is going to be privatized. In other words, to use a public.
Yeah, but we haven't privatized it. That's the thing. You use the word privatize, and that is not at all what happened.
Well, I would
because it is available. It's like our baseball and softball amenities that we have at Citizens Park as well. Those are fenced in. Access to them is limited as well. Again, I think it meets a need in the community for soccer, which is, I think, our most, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't soccer our most popular recreation sport in the city of Aiken in terms of people signing up children to play, more so than baseball and softball, basketball? So, I mean, there's a definite need, and it's 20 acres of property at Citizens Park that lends itself to having the soccer complex.
Well, I'm not against organized sports. I think everybody should have a chance to play as a youngster and then get up and then probably be somebody or make a statement by being in organized sports. But I think the fences and the way it was presented was wrong, because it really, to me, looked like it was privatized. And some other people said the same thing. So why do they put the fence up? I said, well, I guess they don't want you to go in there.
Mayor.
But that's a tough thing to mark up. But I think this last statements that were made about the rye patch and everything, I think it's a slap in the face. The young women and men that are working pretty hard in town in restaurants and everything, working double shifts to pay their rent and eat, and then be presented with all these numbers. I pay over $4,000 a year for insurance. If I didn't have the insurance, my home alone had $22,000 worth of damage from the storm, and I was lucky I got that, and I'm still fixing things up. It wasn't enough, but to sit there and go on, that place is another era and another time. And the way Aiken has changed so much now with all the homes that you're building here and more things to come, the people that are coming in, they're not interested in that. So it's going to be a tough battle to keep those kind of facilities open.
Thank
but
you,
then
sir.
the cry about the American flag's not up, they sell them in Lowe's all day long for about $20. I think it'd be a good idea if you want to go down and buy one.
I've got to move on to the
If
next.
nothing else, it should have the flag anyhow. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Mayor, I did want to add something.
Oh,
if you don't
sorry, I'm sorry. Hold that, Lee. Hold that for a second.
I can't recall the gentleman's last name.
Stay
but
right there. Stay right there.
Mr. Durgans. It's interesting how perspective works. I see the fencing completely different. I grew up playing soccer. I played in high school. I played in college. And soccer is very near and dear to my heart. And when I saw those fences come up, I look at it as a safety feature for our children. When those balls start going and rolling into the streets, the roads, the parking lot, because sometimes cars park on the grass. So I see that as a safety feature. The second thing I see when I see those fences is soccer is a very injury-prone sport. And so if we have people out there digging up the fields, using the fields for a purpose other than soccer, we jeopardize our kids' health. They can get injured. They can tear ACLs. And these are sports ending injuries in some cases. So please don't look at it as privatization. It is a partnership that the city is embarking on with the community to better the programs in soccer because we have a lot of it, and it's very good for our city. So my perspective is safety. That's actually how I see that fencing. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Go.
Lee Thornton. I'm Aiken County resident. I actually drove out there to Citizens Park to take a look at the fencing, and it's a good 5-foot high fence, so it's not very welcoming, and it also is 20 acres of what was a public park where you'd see fathers and sons kicking a ball around, all different ages, dog walkers, you know, it was just in full use. And now you have ostensibly blocked off at least 2/3 of what was an open field when it was not being used for soccer. Now you have Generations Park and you have a sidewalk that goes up there, and it could have been made into a soccer destination. I don't think you want to draw in tournaments to that area of Citizens Park. It's very dangerous pulling out on Pine Log, Banks Mill. You already have, you know, a lot of traffic, and I don't think any little kid has gotten run over there with a ball wandering out, because there's not a lot of cars passing through. It's parking. And my understanding was that it is a private soccer club that has been granted a $1 lease on public land. Is that not true?
Yes.
It is not true.
Yes, it is true.
Okay. So it is concerning that you have ostensibly taken away a great part of a park that was servicing a lot to the community, and now it's soccer. So the steeplechase grounds within a fenced-in area, it's only used twice a year. You could have made soccer fields there that are fenced in, safe. Use it except for the 2 weekends where you have steeplechase running. There were other solutions. I just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Thank you. Back there.
Good evening, Mayor. My
Good
name
evening.
is Sharon White. I'm at 2923 Tennessee Lane in Aiken. And I just would like to address your Aiken United DO update, if I can, which kicks off for tomorrow. I just feel that if you're going to make ordinance changes, that you should include landmark status, landmarks. Because when you put in your ordinance, they will not be destroyed, and that's all you have. That's very vague when you do something else. So I think you should consider landmarks, non-contributing and contributing in your ordinance updates for the kickoffs tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one more person for 3 minutes. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Lex Perry, 1526 South Boundary Avenue. I'm a pastor along with Pastor Kirk Johnson with the Hope team. I want to take up a lot of your time. I just wanted to share this with you. One of the tools that we use when we're helping the homeless here is a site called relink.org. One of the reasons I wanted to share it with you is because it's something that the entire community can use. I know that we make a directory that we use that we can hand out for free and so forth that you're compiling, but this allows us to put all of this in one website database. It doesn't cost anything at all for you. I've already spent the last 9 months gathering as many of the organizations that I can find here in Aiken and South Carolina in general, for that matter, and also in Georgia. I think I've added at least 1,200 organizations between Georgia and South Carolina so far. In South Carolina, we have 664 users of this now, and I think we've had over 2,900 hits on the website that people are using this. The reason why it's important is because anybody in the community can use this website to help someone who is homeless, including yourself. You say, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help this person. You can go to relink.org. Within 3 clicks, you can find the closest organization, whether it be for food, clothing, shelter, a mental health organization, whatever it is. I think it used to call it 211, where you had something similar to that. But with this, you can have it on your phone. We also encourage all the folks that we help who are homeless to put this on their phone as well, and we help them get phones. But they can find this closest organization to them. It doesn't matter what the organization is, how small it is. It can be a grassroots organization, which is beautiful, because a lot of the organizations that I looked up don't have a website. They can't afford it. You don't have to worry about this. This, basically essentially gives them a website that they can send people to, and they can share what they do. And it's geolocated. So it's always going to put the person who needs to use it first. It's not about whether or not you're a United Way or a Red Cross or whatever. It doesn't matter. Whatever you need is, if I need food, and that includes blessing boxes. I've even put those in here. You say, well, what's the closest thing to me? You put it within 3 clicks. It's going to itemize it, the first 25 things, the closest one to them, and go down. We have a lot of churches here that are doing things on different weekends, the second Sunday, the second. Well, I put those in there so the person who needs it can look and say, oh, well, this is the second Saturday. That means I can go to this place, and this place. Or here's a food pantry. Or here's a place where I can find a blessing box. Or they can find the Hope Team, where we can help them with other things. Every organization on the back of these as well, it shows the organization can actually put their information in themselves and keep it updated. That takes the job off the city from doing this. It doesn't cost them a thing. It's absolutely free to do it, and I've been adding them on. If anybody wants the information, I'm happy to help you walk through it. I brought all of these here for you. They're already printed, so you can hand them out, and I also have more that I can hand out. I'm also going to be giving them out to the library. You can just scan the QR code to go to the website. It's already queued to go to South Carolina. But again, sorry, I went over.
Thanks for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Perry.
He was nice enough to share the preview of that with me, and it is a very good site.
Thank you. Okay. We now have approval and discussion of appointees to various city boards, committees, and commissions. Mr. Greenbelt.
Thank you. You have before you the reappointment of Brendan Doherty to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Is there a motion to accept this nomination?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Price?
And I second, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Brohl, second the motion. Comments from the public? Comments from the council? All those in favor? Motion passed. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Nominations for the next meeting, please. Sorry.
John Breck to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. Next, we have second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to amend the historic designation of Friendship Baptist Church Complex located on Richland Avenue East. Mr. Beanbo.
Thank you. The ordinance is entitled an ordinance to amend the historic designation of Friendship African Baptist Church Complex located at the southeastern corner of Richland Avenue and Kershaw Street. The applicant representing the owner has requested that the designation be modified. The landmark designation includes the sanctuary, the parsonage, and the activity building on the church campus. Sanctuary would continue to be designated landmark. The parsonage is a contributing structure, and the activity building is non-contributing. The church building is listed as constructed in 1893. The activity building constructed in 1939. Parsonage constructed circa 1920. It was designated, the entire complex was designated as a landmark to the Historic Register in 1994. At the last meeting, we went over the various definitions of landmark, contributing and non-contributing. This would, these designations help our design review board determine what structural changes are appropriate or if demolition in part or in whole could be considered. And with landmark status, changes to the interior are not subject to the purview of the DRB and do not require a certificate of appropriateness. Only changes proposed on the exterior are under the purview if it's landmark. The Design Review Board considered this request to move the parsonage move its designation from landmark to contributing and the activity building from landmark to non-contributing at their November 14th meeting. By a vote of 5-1, the Design Review Board recommended that the landmark status for the Friendship Baptist Church not be changed from landmark. The Planning Commission then reviewed the request at the January 14th meeting. All present with one recusal unanimously voted to recommend the approval of the application to have the sanctuary remain landmark, the parsonage to be amended to contributing, and the activities building be amended to non-contributing. City Council heard this on first reading at the January 27th meeting and passed it, and now it is before council for second reading this evening to amend the historic designation of the complex as described a moment ago.
Madam Mayor, I'm recusing myself. I'm a member of Friendship Baptist.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilwoman Girardeau made the motion. I need a second, please.
And I second, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Broll, second the motion. Comments from the public? And you have 5 minutes. Please stay to that.
My name is Becky Phillips. I was going to speak 2 weeks ago, but there were so many people. I talked to the pastor, I think it was the pastor and the deacon the other 3 days after, and I couldn't sleep, kept thinking, what could we do with it? I think, forget the history deal, you already got what you need, the parsonage and the kids zone, whatever that one. Leave it like it is. If you put steel girders all around it, you can build something for the kids and leave that as it is. The steel girders, you could put, whatever, so it protects it. But then you don't have to go through the rigmarole of changing it and having to get the historical society involved. He thought it was pretty good. And he said many people had stopped by the church that he didn't even know commented that they think that they need to keep it like it is. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Okay, good evening, Mayor. Sharon Westbrook again, 2923 Tennessee Lane in Aiken. Being enslaved, it wasn't enough that they didn't get their promise of 40 acres and a mule, but they had to become self-sufficient on their own. They united and started a church and community together, built the Friendship Baptist Church complex, starting with the church in 1866, which was referred to as the birth of the Friendship Baptist Friendship family, and now consists of 3 buildings, which is on the city's historical landmark. We must start doing a better job in preserving and protecting legacies and landmarks, especially Black works in America. It is all right to have award ceremonies, giving out plaques in the name of them. But if you haven't shown any action in protecting and preserving them, what has been done? It was all done in vain. You should practice what you preach. It seems to me the city does not step in to see what is being done with landmarks until they are going to build or improve something in the city. If you did, you would not have allowed the Friendship Baptist Church complex to deteriorate for more than 20 years. If we don't take care of our own landmarks to preserve and to protect, who do you think will? I didn't see in any ordinance in your city books or to help preserve and protect. They only state you will not destroy them. But what happens when there is neglect, which is not monitored? What do you do if they didn't take care of it? Let them do whatever they want with it, even if it's dissolved the landmark status? Let them. We won't stand in their way. The Design and Review Board came out for a site visit review, and they went through that building. They looked at the architecture, and they saw that that building was worth preserving. They took the time to seek advice from a historical professional and gave them, that's why they probably came up with the decision they came up as far as this application being denied. Because they took time and they checked on what you were supposed to do. You have an ordinance 5.2.2b, which states that as far as it should not be destroyed. I mean, you don't even go by your own ordinances. I mean, like I said before, if you need to address as far as landmark status and do something, because you know it's too vague, and you just need to do that. Now, as far as the compile and maintain the historic registry and maintain a local inventory of historic structures, including which each is a landmark, contributing or non-contributing. That's according to your ordinance 04142003A. This wasn't enough to consider your decision the last time. Any changes made since the last listed with the city must be provided. Do you have anything listed since the landmark, since 1994, that they've made any changes? I mean, the pastor said he hasn't done anything in 20 years to the building. I think that would be negligent. Demolition by negligent. And I think that an appropriate, they should have applied for the article, whatever, you know, as far as demolition by neglect. They should have applied as far as the application for appropriateness, because this is neglect. You're taking away the landmark, you're doing away with it. That's demolition, that's destroying. And it should be protected. That's what you say in your ordinance. We do not destroy landmarks. But then you just let people do whatever they want, and you come in and you let them do it. But you do not protect and preserve. You have nothing where you do it yourself. I mean, landmarks can fall apart in the city of Aiken, but there's nothing that you do. And I just hope that you address that at your this kickoff that you have.
Thank you.
And to God be the glory.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Linda Johnson, 515 Parkside Drive, speaking for the Historic Aiken Foundation Board. I mean, the parsonage is of great historic significance, both its connection to the historic church and, perhaps more importantly, its standalone history as a structure designed and built primarily by Blacks who came from the Schofield School. Preserving the parsonage preserves a key part of Aiken's history. The historic character is best preserved by keeping it a landmark and leaving it where it is to preserve the original context in association with the church. However, having heard from multiple sides of this, The HAF board recognizes that there are some complex issues related to the church's needs. So at a minimum, we strongly urge a solution that preserves the architectural character of the building within the context of the Schofield School and Friendship Baptist areas. So thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the public? Council, sorry.
Well, there's somebody out here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's John Butera, 338 Country Glen Avenue in the county, and I just want to make some points. First of all, this was new to me. I mean, I just heard about all this going on about a month ago. Went to a couple meetings. I didn't understand the whole process. I went to the design review board meeting, and that's where I started to learn about this process. And one question is, what's the relevance of the design review board? It seems like everything that they vote on, you steamroll over top of it. And I mean, don't they have any weight? Don't their recommendations mean anything? I mean, aren't you supposed to uphold what they at least take into strong consideration what they say? Like, it's just like you just do what you want, no matter what they say. And as far as the parsonage house, I went there today, and of course couldn't get in because I didn't realize you had to have an appointment. You know, I saw the sign on the door there, and I've been in construction all my life, and I looked at the outside. Most of that stuff's cosmetic. I mean, I don't know what it's like inside. I wanted to see for myself. I wasn't able to. Having said that, I would like to say, isn't it ironic that they would want to, Black History Month, that they would want to remove the designation, the landmark designation of something that's a landmark that was built by the Schofield School? I mean, isn't that important? I mean, other people have said that it's really important. Isn't there another solution that could be found? Can't they, I mean, if they need the building, they need the building, meaning their activity building. Why, is there more property that can be found to build a building there and leave this there? Are there grants? I talked to the state. They have grants for this kind of thing. Did they look into grants? I mean, do we have to make a decision now? Could we look into some other solutions? And that's what I have to say about that. And while we're talking about this today, why did they need 20 acres for soccer fields?
Are we talking, it's another topic.
Pardon?
I believe that's another topic.
Well, it is, but it was brought up before.
We're discussing the item about
Pardon?
the church. We are discussing the church.
Okay, well then that's all I have to say about the parsonage at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening. Lisa Smith. I live in the city of Aiken. I just happen to have that ordinance in front of me that they were referring to, not the demolition by neglect ordinance. I don't have that printed out, but I do have real questions about that one, why it's never enforced, especially in situations like the Hitchcock Stables or the old hospital owned by the county or the Hotel Aiken owned by the city where, you know, I know y'all spent like a year advertising what terrible condition it was in, advocating for demolishing it, and no one ever considered the demolition by neglect ordinance. I wonder why that's never enforced, but what they were just talking about, I think, is the 5.1.1 and 5.1.2 in the City of Aiken Municipal Code. The standards and other specific provisions of this ordinance shall apply within the overlay districts, including the historic districts and to historic sites. Regulations applicable in an overlay district shall be governed by the Design Review Board. Whenever there's a conflict between the regulations of the remainder of this ordinance and of this chapter, the more restrictive shall apply. It says an overlay district promotes the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents and the economic prosperity of a particular area, as well as the entire city, by protecting and enhancing the appearance of existing structures and the appearance of new structures. I think it's really bad, besides ordinances, I wanted to say something about precedents. When you start removing landmark status, I don't know if you want to be a city that has signs as you come into the city that say, come visit historic downtown Aiken, or if you really want to be a progressive city that's just trying to bring in more business, more tourism. You know, I can't tell if you're wanting to advocate for this. People who live here now that love Aiken have lived here, you know, now and in the past, or if all you want is just more, new. But the precedents of removing landmark status, of demolishing things that are clearly historically important, you know, allowing those things to happen, not granting contributing status to facilities that are, people pretty much 100% agree are contributing historically. These are very bad precedences that set you up for decisions in the future that you may come to regret.
Did I see somebody else in the back? Is there anyone else? Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mandy Drumming. I'm at 412 Pendle Street Northwest. I've been to several of these public hearings, and I guess at this point, my main concern here is that we aren't addressing the inappropriateness of approving a request to reduce the status designation of a clearly historic landmark status, Frederick Baptist Church Parsonage, and really the activities building. And this is demonstrated in your packet. I'm not going to go. I've gone on about the history in other public meetings. So firstly, indeed, the parsonage membership majority did vote to request to the city to reduce this status of this parsonage, which would reduce its protections. It could be partially demolished, no matter where it goes or who owns it at that point. And in most circumstances, I think, you know, city council could support that. But this is different because this building is in the old Aiken overlay. It has protection. It's also of landmark status. You know, according to the City of Aiken guidelines, and a guideline meaning a general rule, and a general rule is, quote, important because it provides a clear guideline for behavior, promoting order, fairness, and safety within a system, allowing people to understand what is expected of them, and helping to avoid chaos by such, you know, by establishing consistent standards across the community. If you want to build community, this is one way to do that, okay? And the guidelines, you know, with an Aiken landmark status building, as parsonage here, and you should really see the inside of this building. It's an incredible work of art, arts and craft work of art, that, you know, it's, quote, relocation of a landmark will not be approved unless it is threatened by a circumstance such as a highway widening that is entirely out of the owner's control. And, you know, the reasons stated by, you know, again, I do understand things, but the reasons stated by Friendship Baptist Church, you know, they are in their control. You know, I don't know, have you asked about what fundraising efforts have been tasked, you know, because you could get a lot of support from outside the church as well. What grants, like serious grants, have been applied for? Because the first step to getting a grant is to get on the National Register of Places. And secondly, the parsonage and activities building, you know, they're not preventing the church from building a new building. There is ample space on the property. A lot of the other historic buildings on the property have been demolished. So, you know, in reducing that activities building to non-contributing, we haven't talked about that, even though it's being asked. Non-contributing basically means they can demolish the whole thing. And have you asked why they want that status for that building? That is of a landmark status per design review board and the expert that came in and advised design review board of these buildings. So, so in addition, you know, before you vote on this topic tonight, you might want to pause. You know, these buildings have been landmark status for 20 years, thanks to Lillian Redd, who is with the church. There's only 3 Black associated landmark, Aiken landmark buildings out of 21. So you can take that down to 2. And just ask what kind of concrete steps have been made. You know, we would help with grant writing. We offered, you know, for free to the church to have grant writers, 2 of them, to help find grants to support this building. You know, because there's a real need right now to preserve a more inclusive account of Aiken. You know, why only read one chapter? Who wants to read just one chapter of the whole book? We need to know the whole book. Okay, it's very important. You know, and because, you know, these buildings are really important, it's noted in your packet, more now than ever. Okay, I can't stress that enough. And once they're gone or altered, I think that's why the people are up here, because once they're gone or altered, you can never get that back. That is one thing about preservation. You can't get those buildings back. And we all lose out. And we all lose out. This is impact. Please stand if you have a flower. It impacts all of us, okay? That's why the city of Aiken established these guidelines and this overlay, because we all benefit from knowing Aiken architecturally, historically, all right? We're more knowledgeable, and we also benefit monetarily and educationally. So I urge you to maybe pause and ask questions first before you make this change, work together for this building for all of Aiken to benefit from them. Keep the landmark status, which it deserves to be, thanks to Miss Lillian Redd. Okay, she was very knowledgeable and ahead of her time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, back there.
Good evening. I've met some of you before. My name is Susan Aldridge. I grew up in Aiken. I then left and lived in Europe for quite a few years and came back to take care of my mother, and I remained. I live at 104 Foxlea Trail, 29803. I am afraid that Aiken is going to turn into a downtown Greenville. We need to keep it looking like a small town. Everything that the people love about Aiken. And the parsonage is part of our heritage because Martha Schofield came from up north, before the winter residents perhaps, and built a wonderful, wonderful school for the children of the slaves. And those children built that parsonage. And I think it's very important that we keep it. And maybe there can be fundraisers and other things. I just helped save Fermata Club from developers. And I was a member of Fermata Club as a child and was on the swim team. We won the state meet one time. And I still have my trophy and all my medals. But those things are part of what makes Aiken. So saving Fermata Club was important to me, and saving the parsonage is also important to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lester Smalls, 272 DuPont Drive, Aiken, South Carolina. I'm retired pastor emeritus of Bell Grove Baptist Church. I'm the president of the Martha Schofield Alumni Legacy Organization. I'm a lifetime brat of Aiken, South Carolina, and I'm a lifetime member of Friendship Baptist Church. And I came down tonight. I was listening online, which I do every week. And after hearing the comments tonight, I thank you for what you did on last week. Because I do think that I'm going to ask you right out front, if you will, consider allowing the parsonage to be moved. And I'm one that's for preservation. I've always pushed Schofield. I do a lot in that area. But one thing here, you pitting the church, the spiritual work of the church, with the secular things of life. And it's important. We have a couple of issues here. One is proximity. As Pastor Edwards shared with us, that there's no way to allow bathrooms and facilities to service those who need them, who needs the handicap and what so have you, in a good location. That's the only proximity you have. You can't break the building open because it is historic. The other part of that is priority. The church has to be allowed to do what's necessary to service the people going to and fro in service. Our first priority is to teach the gospel, to bring people to Christ, and certainly preserving a building, it is important. But first and foremost, the church should have the freedom to build buildings and progress that's going to be proficient in serving the congregation. So I'm asking that if you consider that, the important thing about this is we're not going to lose the house. And I've spoken to both sides of it, and I've spoken to about the scenarios, that the ideal case scenario for both sides, we can't have it. So the ideal case is to go with the church. The second scenario is to move the house, get a support system behind it, get a group behind it, get a nonprofit behind it, and move it, and we'll still have the facility. It still can be a showplace. It still can be a museum, you see. And what I would ask the city to do, or whatever agency has the latitude to do this, is to set some restrictions, some guidelines on how to preserve the house. But as much as I feel for both sides, I'm a little concerned about the contention that I've felt it in the midst of this. But what I feel for both sides is it's important for the church to do the business of the Lord. That is first and foremost. Handicapped people need to have proximity. We have no flexibility in doing anything else. We love that parsonage. We played in it as kids and grew up in it, met in it, but we won't be losing the home. And I think we respect the importance of not taking this moment for granted. But sometimes you have to make a decision that sort of dictates itself. The scenario dictates itself. So I pray that y'all will move to allow Friendship to go and be about the business of its priority service, and that is having sufficient and efficient facilities that's going to serve the congregation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Mr. Price. He's up. Good evening, Mr. Price.
Good evening. My name is William C. Price. I live at 1550 Red, R-E-D-D, Street Northwest, Aiken, South Carolina, and I am probably one of the very few individuals born, reared, educated, and worked in Aiken County almost 50 years. I had the pleasure of attending the dormitories as a class on the Schofield campus, and I keep hearing the name of Martha Schofield surfacing. I don't know of many people in this town that can say the same. I am the only person in Aiken who graduated from Martha Schofield High School, came back as a teacher, coach, mentor, you name it, I claim it. I mentioned to you several weeks ago, the pastor has already said the insurance company will not insure the parsonage. People are falling through the floors, problems in the roof, problems everywhere. Yes, the building can probably be moved to another location. Soon as we spend $100,000 to $150,000 to bring it up to expectation, talk is cheap. I promise you, building and maintaining and doing whatever work needs to be done to a building that old, excuse my language, it ain't cheap. It's not cheap. We move it to another place on the facility where we're going to locate the building that we are building right behind the church, so it has to go someplace else. Common sense. Now, that's not where I'm going with this. Anyone who breaks into that building on that property, it's a lawsuit because we can't insure it. I think you all heard me say that the last time. It is not insurable. Now, it's nice for people to come over and say what they said. Sound good. But if we are sued by the parents of or whoever it is, who is going to help us pay that bill? It has to be paid. We need to upgrade, do a lot of work. It's going to cost a lot of money. Now, I'm going to remember all of the folk that I saw come. And I'm coming for a donation. That's just all there is to it. I'm coming for a donation. Thank you. May God bless you. I wouldn't have your job for nothing.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kimberly Toney, reside at 623 Edgery Street. Thank you, Deacon Price, for that laugh. I kind of needed it. I have to admit, I got a little emotional with some of the commentary that was given. Ironically, today, I think a year or two ago, quite a few people in Aiken met it down the street from Friendship Baptist Church at Smith Hazel about Save the Trees. And as a native of Aiken for over 50 years, I took offense to it a little bit because I was at Smith Hazel all my life, knew that all my life. Right now, I take a little offense to Friendship because I've been there all my life. And to hear people talk about my church, as I put it, and to talk about a parsonage whom forgive me for saying this, never seen them step foot in it, kind of makes me feel a little emotional right now. So I'm going to try not to, I had to pray back there. I'm just going to be honest with you. Heard a statement made about this is Black History Month. And it is. But being in my skin, Black history is every day. It was just given to us for February for 28 days. And we got the shortest month of the year. I just had to put that in there. But I'm going to say this. In our history book that Friendship Baptist Church so proudly put together, celebrating 150 years, 5 years ago, it says on page 14 that the people had a mind to work when asked what type of building they wanted. And it was reported that they exclaimed in unison, "We want a brick building." The building committee was formed. They secured the service of Mr. Otts, a concerned white Christian. Mr. Otts has served as a superintendent of Sunday school in the former years. He was a member of the first generation of teachers and religious leaders who came from the South after the Civil War to teach the newly freed slaves and their children. Mr. Otts was also an architect. He drew the plans of the new church and presented it to the building committee, who then brought to the congregation for approval. The plan was received for enthusiasm. This is what we did. We're progressive enough. We know enough about our history. We know our past. And I'm being true to our Negro national anthem, true to our native land. We're true to our past, and we're progressive enough at Friendship Baptist Church, the congregation, to know what we need. We want a brick building. We want to look forward to our future generations, and that's what we're doing. We're secured an architect. We want to move forward. We know that we can no longer accommodate the people that we need to have in our mission to move forward. In that white building right there, it may look like it's dilapidated, and it has a lot of architectural features that I cherish and love as well. But we cannot, if you go through that door and go to the left, into that first room on the left, it's uneven. We have a small conference room. We can't meet with our future generations in that conference room. You see how unlevel it is? That does not go towards our future. It cannot accommodate our future. We are looking towards, we want to be progressive enough so when our next 200 years or 250 years, we can show where that building has been moved into a closer proximity, not too far off from here, and that we have moved forward to thinking of future generations just like it was back then, as the history has shown us. So I ask of you, and I thank you enough for City Council that know that when we come back and we're asking for a relocation for that building, that the Design Review Board and that the City Council will allow us to do that. We are asking for relocation. We have enough faith in you all that you will hold us to making sure that things are preserved and that you will hold us to the ordinances that you have outlined. We have enough faith in you to do that, and we ask that you allow us to relocate. We would like to relocate that building. We would ask that you would allow us to amend our landmark designation. And that's what we would like for you to do, is to request grant our request to amend our landmark designation. That building can be preserved, and
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Pastor T.C. Edwards. I live at 2001 Pheasant Creek Drive, Martinez, Georgia, 30907. I've been the pastor of Friendship Baptist Church for the past 20 years, and heard some folks allude to the fact nothing has been done in 20 years. To be honest with you, nothing has been done in 100 years. The building was built, 1920? And so we, 1920? 1820? What, 1920? 1920, right? Yeah, 1920s. So I got there 20 years ago. So 100 years, nothing's been done to the building. So it's not anything. When I arrived, I was told that the church would not put any money into that building due to the conditions of the building, and the plan was to build a new facility. So that has been in the works for well over for the 20 years that I've been there. We're about doing kingdom work to serve the present age. We cannot serve the present age in that building. None of our facilities are ADA. We don't have a restroom you could take a wheelchair in and turn it around. And our activity building, if you aren't ambulatory, if you can't walk, you can't go to any of our restrooms. And so what we need, we're not tearing the building down. We're not demolishing the building. The building will be moved less than 1,000 feet from where it sits, and so that we can build, so that we can serve our present age. The church voted unanimously. We are a Baptist church, as I've said before. We're a congregation driven. Most of the folks that have stood here and spoke, some of them look to be at least 50 or 70 years old, and some maybe even older. And there's nothing on record that they've ever donated anything toward that building. We're here, and now we're getting folks who want to try to tell us about our history. We know our history. We published the book. So we understand our history. We're not ignorant. We understand our history. We know what we're doing. And we're just asking that you all will approve so that we can move forward to serve the present age. Thank you.
She can't talk again. She's already spoken.
Lee Thornton, return.
No.
I was here November 14th when the community of the church spoke up on in need of having this building designated as a non-contributing structure and losing its status as a landmark. When I look at this, I say, if it's moved across the street, which is what was offered, it will lose its landmark status immediately, and it will no longer qualify for any grants. It has to be kept where it is. So has the church considered selling that building and partitioning it off? Because I don't think they need to build the new facility right there, and they could get money for that, and it could be preserved where it is. And I don't know, but it's just a thought, because if the person takes it and moves it across the street, it immediately loses its potential. Nope. Nope, it's not true.
All right, that's enough.
I don't know that I'm posing a question.
Well, we're
not to
need
you,
to ask
perhaps.
us, please.
But I know they have an offer to take it and move it across the street, but then it's already lost its designation as a potential for grants. And
We're voting on
okay,
changing it to a contributing from landmark. Anyone else? Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I call the question. I've made the thing, so move ahead.
Comments from council?
Nope.
I called the question.
Yeah, call the question.
Okay. 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 I need help with that.
I did it. I made the motion. Kay seconded.
Okay. Councilman Girardeau made the motion.
It's already been done.
Yes, you just need to ask for a vote on
good.
the motion to change the status of,
Right.
to amend the historic designation.
I'm asking for a vote to change the status for the historic designation. All those in favor? Motion passed. Thank you.
Mayor, before we move on to the next agenda item, one of my law partners represents Mr. Kisner and his family in some other legal matters, not the one that's coming before council next, but I'm going to recuse myself from these discussions. I've handed in my conflict of interest form to the clerk, and I'll be leaving the chambers. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Plyler is here to sit in on this matter. He's in the room, so he should be making his way in for a moment, I guess, while people leave.
I think she did, but let me go back and see.
He did.
Okay. The next item under old business is second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to designate the Hitchcock Stables as a non-contributing structure. Mr. Beedenbow.
Thank you. The ordinance is entitled an ordinance designating the Bostwick Hitchcock Stables located on tax parcel 10512010006 Lawrence Street Southwest as non-contributing structures under the City of Aiken Historic Preservation Ordinance. The matter before you involves these structures, which under our preservation ordinance, they can be designated as landmark contributing or non-contributing. And our design review manual lays out a guide to how that is done, describing those three categories: landmark, contributing, non-contributing. The past chairwoman of the Design Review Board submitted an application to designate the stables as a contributing structure because the stables were not given a designation under past historic resource surveys. The city zoning ordinance says that those sort of designation applications may be made by any member of city council, the Design Review Board, or other board or commission appointed by city council or by the owner of or owners of the property. Therefore, this went in front of the Design Review Board at their December 17th meeting. The board voted 4-3 to designate those stables at 525 Lawrence Street Southwest as a contributing structure. There, and per our ordinance, that was then forwarded to the Planning Commission for their January 14th, 2025 meeting, where they unanimously voted to recommend the stables be designated as non-contributing. Therefore, following the process, it comes to City Council for a 2-reading ordinance. So, what is being considered is second and final reading of an ordinance to designate these stables at this address at this tax parcel number as a non-contributing structure under the City of Aiken's Historic Preservation Ordinance. And it is before council for second reading this evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, I so move.
Councilwoman Brohl made the motion.
I second.
And Councilwoman will second the motion. Thank you. Are there any comments from the public? Good evening.
Good evening. Tara and Charlie Bostwick, 525 Lawrence Street. We are the owners of this property that Faith Hawks, the former board chair of the Design Review Board, put an application in. I don't want to rehash everything that we said. You guys, I know we're here so long. I went home and I think I watched the rest of the council meeting on YouTube, and I think I ended up falling asleep. And I know this is going to be a late evening for you all. So we'll keep our comments short. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I appreciate the opportunity that is before us to, from your first reading, to take the recommendation from the Planning Commission to make the stables non-contributing. Most of the stables in Aiken that have not been made into homes were considered non-contributing. And I know in the record that we have the situation where these stables were never considered designated. And I'm not sure what happened because the South Carolina Historic and Archives do mention the G.H. Bostwick Stables as outbuildings on the west side of Lawrence inside Hitchcock Woods, and that was in the 1982 survey. So I think somewhere that may have got lost, even though I was able to get that off their website. So the stables were not considered contributing. Design Review Board voted 3-4. Had the person that put the application in had recused herself, it would have been a 3-all vote and it would not have passed. Planning Commission came and voted unanimously to make it non-contributing. So I ask you all tonight, we ask you all tonight, our family, to vote in recommendation of the Planning Commission's recommendation to make them non-contributing. I really don't know any property in Aiken where the city voted against a property owner's wishes and rights. And I think that that's what we're talking about tonight. I think many of the people that I've spoken to that are either here or reached out to you all is about property rights. There is a time for the Design and Review Board to look at the application that is before them, that has actually been before them since June 26, to make the determination on what can be done with this. But for the City Council, I think we're talking property rights, and I would appreciate that you would consider ours tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Johnson, you?
Hello, Linda Johnson, 515 Parkside Drive. I was up at the last council meeting talking about this on behalf of the Historic Aiken Foundation Board. As I said then, we support the pending application for the plans for the building, for the stables, based on the engineering reports and the erosion issues. However, the board continues to ask the council to designate the stables as contributing. There's a strong association with important historic events in Aiken. They have a strong association with important historic people in Aiken, and they have a distinctive architecture. Now, with respect to what's been found in the record, something got introduced last time, that they in fact are in the state archive record. It wasn't the 1982 original survey, but in 1989, when they did a new survey, the stables were added as an outbuilding to the Mon Repose squash courts across the street. That's great. So they're there in the record. But it was suggested that maybe an outbuilding is non-contributing. And that's maybe not quite the situation. I'd like to clarify. The Secretary of the Interior standards for historic preservation don't give a default of non-contributing in historic districts. You have to actively make a determination. So turns out in 2023, they did a best practices bulletin about garages and outbuildings. And I made sure that you all had a copy there. And they said, look, this isn't, designation isn't just about major historic buildings. It's about all structures and buildings in the area. And they give some examples, and one of them is stables. The document says that none of these ancillary buildings and structures should be considered unworthy of documentation. and that ignoring them creates an incomplete historic record. It further states that such a building or structure can be considered contributing if it adds to the historic associations, historic architectural qualities, or archaeological values for property. So please don't dismiss a contributing designation just because the stables are identified as an outbuilding. The historic significance of the stables is clear, and we need a correct designation so everyone can move forward on this project and the Bostwicks and Kisners can be able to work on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Smith. I live in the city of Aiken. When was the last time that Aiken was mentioned in the London Times or in the New York Times? Here's what the New York Times reported in 1901. Within 3 years of the purchase of the forest, Hitchcock and Whitney transferred the property to a board of trustees to be used in perpetuity for sports in Aiken, South Carolina. The London Times reported, the Aiken Hunt was founded in 1890 by the Hitchcock family and took place in their woods. It's the fastest and most formidable drag hunt in America. The London Times reported in 1930, Aiken native Tommy Hitchcock led the American polo team to international victory. They said Captain Hitchcock was everywhere. The Britons couldn't keep the ball away from him. The New York Times reported regularly on Aiken native Tommy Hitchcock as a polo player and a war hero, with headlines like, Hitchcock taken unhurt, word reaches relatives that he is not wounded in combat, and Hitchcock walked 100 miles and escaped from the Germans, guided only by a small compass, and Major Tommy Hitchcock predicts the P-51 to be the best U.S. fighter plane. Those were all headlines in the New York Times. How many Aiken natives do we know that won an Olympic silver medal, played polo as a 10-goal player for 18 years, attracted 40,000 spectators to a single match, escaped after being shot down by the Germans in World War I, were awarded a Gold Star in World War II, and were the inspiration for a character in The Great Gatsby? Tommy Hitchcock was considered the best polo player of all times. His team won the silver medal in the 1924 Paris Olympics. He and his father flew fighter planes in World War I, and Tommy was killed while flying in World War II. The U.S. ambassador wrote that Tommy Hitchcock worked for the American war effort as aggressively as he played polo. Tom Buchanan, F. Scott Fitzgerald's character in The Great Gatsby, was modeled on Tommy Hitchcock. In Aiken today, we have Hitchcock Hardwoods, Hitchcock Rehab, Animal Hospital, Crossing, Parkway, Healthcare, Plaza, and of course, the jewel in Aiken's crown, the Hitchcock Woods. And we have one authentic stable yard that was designed, built, and used by the Hitchcocks for almost 50 years. The Bostwicks have described how generations of their family, their children, played in that barn, and they bought it in the 40s after Tommy Hitchcock died. He played in that barn before that, generations of the Hitchcocks also played in that barn. Most of us know that in 1898, the Hitchcocks and the Whitneys bought 8,000 acres just south of Aiken's downtown that they gave to the citizens of Aiken in perpetuity as the Hitchcock Woods. What's Aiken's favorite thing to do on Thanksgiving morning? The Aiken Hounds, founded by the Hitchcocks in 1890s, opening meet isn't just a tradition for fox hunting enthusiasts, but it is for our whole community. What's one of the most beautiful, traditional, and loved horse shows in the U.S.? The Aiken Horse Show, held each spring in the woods, was started by the Hitchcocks in 1916. What event brings 50,000 people to Aiken for spring and fall sport? Thomas Hitchcock helped found the Aiken Steeplechase Association in 1930. Thomas Hitchcock founded the Palmetto Golf Club in 1892 and built the Whitney Barns, the training track, the racing stables, and the polo fields that were later sold to Mr. Whitney. All were put in trust for Aiken so they would be preserved for the future. Now you have a decision to make, and it doesn't just affect two high-profile families. You're setting a precedent for all future preservation in the Horse District and in the Historic District. You'll decide if the historic, some even say iconic, Hitchcock Racing Stables and the Hitchcock family are an important part of Aiken's history. You'll vote on whether the stables do or do not add historic significance and whether they were built in an important time for Aiken's historic district. Isn't it obvious? whether they're associated with the lives of people that are significant in history. There's really only one answer to these questions. Please consider the facts, the precedents that you're establishing here, the law, the Design Review Board standards, and the Design Review Board's previous decision, and do what's right for all of Aiken citizens, not just a few. The historic Hitchcock racing stables and carriage houses are irreplaceable. The Hitchcock family gave Aiken much of its character, and we still enjoy their generosity. Our Aiken lifestyle, tourism, and so many important Aiken traditions were gifted to us by the Hitchcock family, and now we should work together to protect an important, unique remaining part of their legacy. I wanted to mention, too, that my son was a junior whip for the Aiken Hounds for a season, and they still wear those coats. The coat that he wore for the season when he was the honorary junior whip belonged to Tommy Hitchcock. The tradition matters.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Any other comments from the public? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, sorry.
Take two. Good evening. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm Julia Beamish. I live at 364 Bluffwood Road in the county. I beg you to vote to preserve, to designate as contributing these uniquely Aiken 125-year-old stables. Just to put these stables in a social and brief historical context. Aiken's winter colony, the famous winter colony, entered its golden era in the early 1890s with the arrival of prominent New York businessman Tommy Hitchcock and his wife Louise. The Hitchcocks invited friends to join them for the winter to pursue a life of activities centered around horses and golf. In fact, that's represented in the coat of arms of the city of Aiken, right in front of us. For the next 60 years, hundreds of leading northern families, including Whitneys, Vanderbilts, Rutherlands, and Islings, Posts, Astors, and Goodyears, transformed Aiken with their cottages, which we would now consider mansions, and their passion for golf, fox hunting, polo, and thoroughbred racing. And again, some of that is reflected in your coat of arms, our coat of arms. The number of those winter colonists dwindled after the mid-20th century, but their legacy survived. It survived in Aiken's horse industry, the annual Triple Crown races, the impressive homes and stables, the Wilcox Inn, and institutions such as Aiken Prep. Hitchcock Stables were constructed by Thomas Hitchcock in 1900. They are among the oldest known surviving thoroughbred training barns in the United States and the oldest thoroughbred training barns in Aiken. These stables are unique, along with the Whitney barns, in their construction, which adjoins a residential complex in a compact style characteristic of that era, and also in that they incorporate elements of the so-called shingle style. The Hitchcock barns are also significant as they exemplify the spatial relationship of thoroughbred training barns to training spaces as we see around the historic equestrian district of Aiken. And as we've just heard, Hitchcock Woods, so important to Aiken life and to Aiken's fame, are on land that was purchased by Thomas Hitchcock and William Whitney. Thank you, Misters Whitney and Hitchcock. To conclude, the age, the origins, the architectural significance, the aesthetic value of these stables warrant a formal historic contributing designation. We're just passing through here. The stables have been here 125 years. Please make sure that they're here for another 125 years at least, and so that our descendants can enjoy them. If you vote not to designate them as contributing, Won't that set a bad precedent for the entire historic district in Aiken? Let's not set a bad precedent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Valerie Roble. I live in South Aiken in the county. And I just want to make sure you're all aware that, number one, this should be without question. This is a historical structure. That should be, I mean, there's enough evidence for every one of you to clearly see that, and I appreciate you voting in that direction. But number two, if you decide to make this a non-contributing structure, you are creating a slippery slope. You are opening a door that you may not be able to close. I don't know if you realize that, or if you've given that some thought. If you allow this to be a non-contributing in the historic overlay and historic district, so the next person's going to do that. And if you tell them no, they're going to say, well, why? You let this building become non-contributing. This is what Aiken has. We have this history. We have the horse district history. We have a historic overlay. I am all for property rights. I get it. I want to do whatever the heck I want to do on my property. That's why I do not own property in the city limits or in a historic district. If I own property in a historic district or in the city limits, I would have to abide by what those guidelines and those rules are. So I get personal property rights. For everybody that says that's so important, I agree, that's important. But if you're buying a property or if you own a property that's in the historic district, there are certain guidelines to follow. And you all are going to make a huge mistake. If you open this door, you may not be able to close it. You are creating a slippery slope. And I know it's cool to be trendy and try to do what everybody else in the nation is doing. But, you know, Aiken following suit for what everything else is going on in the nation is not a good idea. You know, this mass housing is one thing that is very disappointing. 4 to 6 to 7 houses on an acre of land. You're making us just like everywhere else in the United States, and it's a very sad thing. This is a very super special community. We have more history here, particularly in the horse district, than any place else in the United States, bar none. And it's evidenced, it's written, it's documented. So this is a very slippery slope, and I surely, surely hope that you guys take that into consideration. Seek legal counsel on this one, because this is not a good idea. You are opening a door you're not going to be able to close. The historic district and the Aiken Horse District are something special that we have. It does not exist anyplace else, period. Please, please take that into consideration.
Thank you. Any other, yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Steve Kisner, Summit Drive, Aiken, South Carolina. My original plan was not to even mention designation, but I just have to say one thing. The irony of all this discussion is the plan from the beginning was to preserve the barns. And here we are 7 months later, still talking about designation. Well, I just want to publicly thank each council member in the comments you made in our last meeting regarding the issues and concerns we have of the things that are going on in our town. The comments were very professional, they were well needed, and they were from their heart, and I appreciate that. I've been in the construction business here for a long time. I've had an opportunity to build over 300 homes in Aiken. Probably 70% of those homes were people that decided to retire to Aiken. Almost predominantly, they come from the Northeast, the Midwest, and the West Coast. When you build someone their dream home they're going to retire in, you get to know them pretty well. And there's almost exclusively 4 reasons people come to Aiken. One is the charm of the downtown. 2 is the unbelievable golf community we have. I don't know if you realize it, but we have 135 holes of golf in the city limits of Aiken. That's unheard of. I would doubt that in a town this size there's anything like that anywhere else. The unique horse community, whether we benefit by the business aspects of the horse community or just the recreational value, It's very unique, and people come here because they're interested in that. But the biggest reason they come is people here are friendly, and it's you hear stories about, well, I lived in Boston or I lived in Los Angeles, and the clerks in our businesses, the wait staffs in our restaurants, the professionals that provide services to us all, and just the general population in Aiken are all so friendly. And I just want to emphasize that. And certainly my company understands the importance of preservation, because people are coming here because they like what is preserved here. Currently, anywhere I go in town, people want to stop and talk to me about what's going on in our town. And you guys spoke about that so eloquently, and I appreciate it very much. I'm just hopeful as we move forward that we communicate better and we get together and try to find common ground on the issues that we face. And thank you for what you're doing. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to, back in the back? Hello?
John Butera, 338 Country Glen Avenue in the county. First of all, I want to agree with everything that lady back there said. She's 100% right. Second of all, normally I'm 100% for property rights, and this isn't really, is this an issue of property rights? Because here's the thing. When I moved down here, I didn't realize I bought a house in an HOA. An HOA is the same thing. I give up some of my property rights. And I do that when I buy the house. I thought maybe if I didn't sign any kind of document or contract that I would be exempt, but no. When you buy the house, you agree, whether you like it or not. Same thing with moving into the historic district. You have to abide by the rules. We have something that is unique that is nowhere else. And they do deserve, actually I think they deserve to be landmarked, but they deserve, at the least, they deserve to be contributing. And my other question is, if they're going to preserve them anyway, why fight so much? What do they care if it's contributing or non-contributing? I mean, if they're going to preserve them anyway, why would it matter? Can anybody tell me? So, I would say they definitely deserve to be contributing. They're unique for two reasons. First of all, because of the Hitchcocks, and second of all, because of their architecture. And my understanding is either one of those things could place them on the contributing list. So both of them, yeah, they definitely are contributing. To say that they're not contributing is to say, you know, the sun is cold or some other ridiculous thing. They are contributing. So I do ask that you take that into account and vote that way. And again, if they're going to be preserved anyway, it's really a moot point, isn't it? And then you know, everybody can get on about their business. And I know this is unpopular, but I want to state for the record that I believe that Faith Hawks did her job. I believe that she did what was required of her in that position. A determination had to be made, and she just put forth like the right thing, that they should be contributing. And then it was up to everybody else to decide. That's all she did. She didn't do it herself. She just made the recommendation, period. And yet, she was let go for that. And I don't understand. I think she's actually due I think she's due an apology, and I think she should be reinstated, actually. You guys are here to follow the law, and it really shouldn't matter, what someone's last name is or whatever. So, I mean, we all have to follow the same law. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening, Brittany Kisner, 832 Fermata Place. I also was not planning to speak tonight in effort to speed things along because we've spoken at length, and I think everyone certainly knows how I feel, and I wrote a letter to be read at the last meeting. But to address, everyone certainly is entitled to their opinion, and that's why a public forum is given and welcomed at these meetings. I do feel like I can answer a few questions, and I have appreciated the history lessons that have been given throughout this process because the history of the barns certainly matters to us, and our plan has always been to follow best practices, to do what's best for the barns, to do the very best we can in the spirit of preservation, stabilization, to honor the Hitchcocks, to honor the Bostwick family, who's also a very important part of that history, to honor Peter Green. I hope we get that opportunity. I do think that there's been a lot of things said. The importance of the DRB, absolutely. Our quasi-judicial boards, yes, they have a place, and certainly that's where we started. And why I am in favor of Planning Commission's recommendation to make these barns non-contributing is because of the irregularities in the process. And certainly we've looked at the laws at length and the zoning ordinances, and sure, the chair thought she was doing what was right, but the irregularities with how she did it, the benefit of a small town is certainly our goal, is to be the best community member we can be, the best neighbor that we can be, hopefully with the Bostwicks, and to work together with them in this process. So from the day one, when we started looking at the property, our goal was, to meet with them, discuss what works best for us, and because the barns are in the historic overlay, regardless of their designation, you have to follow guidelines. So that's why we submitted our initial application. And we've learned along the way, certainly. And that is my understanding to be the role of the Design Review Board, to help homeowners, property owners, adjust if something doesn't fall in the guidelines, work with us in this way, come back to us. Because ultimately what we want is a thriving historic district, a thriving community that attracts new people, certainly, but also absolutely preserves our history. We certainly want to do that. We want to honor what the Bostwick family has done all these years. And I think that's where, in our mind, the irregularities in that process, the ethical violations, certainly, as we said, and Stuart recounted it, it wasn't a landslide vote with Design Review Board. It was a 4-3 vote with the chair not recusing herself after putting forth that application. She was the tiebreak vote. So we wouldn't even be here today if that had ended in a tie. We feel like with all these irregularities and the things that have gone on behind closed doors and the comments that were made at the open forum at the barns, certainly this is just our instinct. But in this case, she put that application through without ever consulting the property owner. Legally, she can do that because she's a member of the Design Review Board, a chair. But was that the right thing to do? Does that follow best practices for preservation? Does that follow Secretary of Interior standards guidelines? It does not. And then we've continued to move in that direction of why we feel that the push to label these barns and give them a designation was to prevent something from happening. All we want is our application to be heard by the Design Review Board. And also all we want to do is to be good neighbors and community members with the Bostwick family. And so we want to support them in this process. And as they are the property owners, they have all our full support. And that is why we are asking that you uphold the Planning Commission's recommendation to make the barns non-contributing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes. Mm-mm.
It was a different issue.
Lee Thornton, once again. I'm passionate about Aiken, as you can see in all
Your address.
all respects.
Sorry, your address.
Pardon?
Where you live is supposed to be on record.
South Aiken, in the county.
Thank
And I just wanted to say that I have friends who live not in the historic overlay, but in the Aiken horse community that is adjacent on the other side of Whiskey Road, the dirt roads that are part of the iconic area that we call the Horse District. My concern is that if you take a structure like the historic Aiken Stables, which meet every criteria for being a contributing of importance to the history in all aspects, you do open the door to barns that may not have that history, but if you allow it to be non-contributing, every other person who buys property ostensibly could say their stable's a non-contributing structure, and one property at a time you lose. We can no longer protect them from being taken down, and so you slowly will lose the horse community. And I worry about that. I'm not saying they can't. I don't understand why they need it to be a non-contributing structure if all they want to do is preserve it. Is that? I just worry because it's one property at a time, and you're unable to say to one family, well, your stable you have to preserve. I have friends who have property that is adjacent to property that will be sold, and if that barn is taken down and a house goes up, one by one, we lose our racehorses. We lose potentially every property in downtown historic horse community that we are known for. So that's just something for y'all to consider, is that it doesn't. They do need to be protected, and the most iconic of those would be the Hitchcock racing stables, and that would be the one that would start the dominoes. But y'all will make your vote, so thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Rue.
My name's Les Rue, 317 Hillcrest Road, Aiken. And I certainly had no intention of speaking tonight, but I've been surprised. A lot of people talk about this property like it's public property. It's private property. It's not open. My understanding of the law is you can't just go on anybody's property you want to and make yourself at home. People act like this is public property. It's private, and it is a private affair. It's not public property, and I think that I'm not an Aikenite. I've only been here 16, going on 17 years, and one of the reasons I came was because of the friendliness of Aiken, how it made me feel. And I grew up in a small town, then spent a lot of my older life in Atlanta. I'm glad to be out of there. But small town life is great. We don't want to change the feel of Aiken. And to me, the important thing is that this is private property. This is not public property. And I've been a member of the National Historic Preservation society for 50 years, and I support preservation. But I also, that's mostly mostly in public property, not private. If you own it, you ought to be able to do within certain reasons, which is the building codes and the zoning codes. You know what those are. So to me, the issue is that it is private property, not public. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. My name is Wanda Innes, 644 Paloma Lane. I'm a recent immigrant to Aiken, and I love it, and I love the historic nature of it. I'm in the process of buying a farm in the historic district, and I don't really understand how this can happen, because if this historic, obviously very historic structure is allowed to be taken down, and that's another thing I don't understand. If they don't want to take it down, why is there this debate going on about conforming, non-conforming? Could you answer that question? You're addressing us, not okay. But I just wondered, what is that distinction? Because that would clear things up for me. Why, if they want to preserve the barn, why does conforming or non-conforming matter? Okay. So, well, that was a question that I had. But I just don't see how the slippery slope doesn't take place. Because if one historic structure could be taken down, and it's such a special place, it really can't be duplicated, then why can't anyone who has a historic property do whatever they want to their property as well? Anyway, that's the point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. I did want to offer a point of clarity. A lot of the criteria that you've heard, and I want to make sure that council is clear on this as they prepare for their vote. A lot of the criteria you're hearing about is actually earlier in the zoning ordinance than where we are in the process right now. So when we talk about is it significant in American, South Carolina, or Aiken history, that's in 5.2.2b when you're putting something on the register to begin with. This property is already on the register. It's already protected. That's why an application had to come to the DRB to begin with. The reason it needs a designation is the standards that apply for how that application will be judged is based on whatever designation it's given. But it doesn't mean the property isn't on the registry. It doesn't mean that all the boxes haven't already been checked with regards to integrity of location, design, setting, materials, or workmanship, which is also in 5.2.2b. We are now in 5.2.2d, and what it says is if a property is being put on the historic registry, like this property already is, the city council shall give it a designation. The only three choices for designation are non-contributing, contributing, and landmark. All three have certain standards that will protect the structures or the site as it goes through the DRB process. Landmarks cannot be demolished. It says shall not be demolished. The other two absolutely can. It's just the standards that will have to be applied by the DRB might be different based on contributing or non-contributing. But it doesn't mean demolition is prohibited with either one of those. But because the criteria found earlier in the ordinance keep getting reiterated in the comments, I want to make sure that City Council, as they prepare for their vote, are aware of where we're at in the process, which is this is already on the register. We just need to decide now what the designation is for the structures. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Plyler? We have followed the directives of 5.2.2, correct?
Correct.
It has come before the DRB, then it came to Planning Commission, and now it's before us. We have
Correct.
fulfilled those requirements.
Yeah, and they make recommendations to you only. They don't have the power to put a
Right.
designation on it.
But the decision falls with City Council. But
Correct.
we have followed procedure.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I call for the question.
Okay, all those in favor?
I second.
Yeah, just,
Call the question, I second it, so you can call for the vote.
Do I need to tell her? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
To Attorney Weiler, you indicated, and I want to emphasize this, you indicated whether it's contributing or non-contributing. It does not mean either of these processes is not demolition. Is that one or the other?
yeah, what I was saying is that of the three designations, landmark prohibits any demolition. Contributing or non-contributing, you can still have demolition, partial demolition, and the like. It's just the standard for review by the DRB is slightly different.
Thank you, for the record.
Thank you. All those in favor, raise your hand. There's 6 in favor and 1 opposed, because I do feel it's a contributing structure. Thank you. The next item under old business is second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to annex 1109, 1112, and 1113 Concord Drive and zone it RS 15 residential single family. Mr. Beanville.
Madam Chair, I'm going to excuse myself and get Mr. Smith back out here for y'all.
I gotta go to the restroom. I guess you should have gone while I was out there, right?
Okay, here we go again. The next item under old business is second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to annex 1109, 1112, and 1113 Conger Drive and zone it RS 15 residential single family. Mr. Beanville.
Thank you. It is entitled an ordinance to annex the corporate limits of the city of Aiken, certain property consisting of 3 lots owned by several owners and located at 1109, 1112, 1113 Conger Drive and zoned the same residential single family. These properties are approximately range from 52 hundredths of an acre to 55 hundredths of an acre. They are very close to each other, as noted on the diagram. The recommended zoning is compatible with surrounding single-family uses and zoning. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended the annexation of all 3 properties at their January 14th meeting, and Council approved this at first reading January 27th. It's before you for second reading this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Beanville. Do we have a motion, please?
So moved, Mayor.
Councilwoman Gregory.
I second.
And Councilwoman Diggs second the motion. Any comments from the public? Comments from council? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you so much. Next, we have second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to annex 1424 Moultrie Drive and zone it RS 15 residential single family.
Thank you. The ordinance is entitled an ordinance to annex property located at 1424 Moultrie Drive and zone the same residential single family RS 15. It is approximately 59 hundredths of an acre. The recommended zoning use is compatible with and consistent with the surrounding single family uses, and the Planning Commission unanimously recommended the annexation and zoning to RS 15 at their January 14th meeting. Council heard it at first reading on January 27th. It's before you for final reading this evening.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion, please?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Price made the motion. And
Second, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Broll seconded the motion. Any comments from the public? Comments from our council? All those in favor? Motion passed unanimously. The next item under old business is second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to rezone property at 102, 114, and 118 Williamsburg Street Southeast from light industrial to downtown business. Mr.
Thank you. It is entitled, Madam Mayor, an ordinance to rezone property located at 102, 114, and 118 Williamsburg Street Southeast from Light Industrial LI to Downtown Business DB. This was the property that the city sold at the end of December to Marketside Village LLC. They would like to rezone it to downtown business. It is across the street from the farmers market. This will allow them to fulfill what their expectation is for this property. They've had several charrettes between Thanksgiving and Christmas. The comprehensive land use plan designates the property as commercial, and the recommended rezoning, it's adjacent to downtown business zoning use to the west, and it is compatible.
Excuse me, I'm going to excuse myself because I own property on that street.
Thank you.
And the Planning Commission unanimously recommended the rezoning at their January 14th meeting. And though City Council approved this for first reading at their January 27th meeting, it is before you for second reading tonight.
Thank you. Is there a motion, please?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Price,
I second.
and I can't see because of Mr. Smith, but Councilwoman Diggs. Second the motion. Thank you. Any comments from the public? Comments from council? Very exciting. All those in favor? Minus Councilman Waltz, it's unanimous. Thank you. Now we have second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to rezone property at 223 East Boundary Avenue Southeast from light industrial to residential single family. Mr. Beedenbell.
Thank you. It is entitled an ordinance amending the zoning of real estate located at 223 East Boundary Avenue Southeast from LI Light Industrial to RS6 Residential Single Family. It is on the northwest corner of Thorpe Lane and East Boundary. The comprehensive plan future land use map designates the property as residential, so the recommended rezoning is compatible with adjacent uses, and it has frontage on both East Boundary and Thorpe Lane. After discussion at their January 14th, 2025 meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended it be rezoned to RS6 Residential Single Family. Council approved this at your January 27th meeting for first reading. It is before you tonight for second reading.
Thank you so much. Do I have a motion, please, to accept this?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Broll. And
I'll second.
Councilman Girardeau second the motion. Any comments from the public? Comments from council? All those in favor? This motion's passed. Thank you. The next item under old business is second reading and public hearing of an ordinance amending City Code Section 6-4 regarding drinking of beer and wine in public places. Mr. Beedenbell.
Thank you. It is an ordinance amending Section 6-4 of the Aiken City Code regarding the drinking of beer or wine in public places. This is out at the former Aiken Mall. Aiken Town Park is the new name. They are requesting permission for public consumption of beer and wine only in the interior Central Park space noted on the diagram in green that's on the screen. And this is similar to the setup we have in the alley in that it would be city-owned. As the alley is. This amendment to our ordinance was, the current ordinance is very specific to the alley plaza. This adds the designation to this location. And we also modified language to specify that individuals may obtain one beverage at a time. And again, it is for beer and wine only. It is not for spirits or liquor, which is a different type of classification and license noted in the state code. Also, we're mimicking 6-4 because I believe the merchants in the alley, when we proposed this, they were only in favor of beer and wine, so we wanted to keep that consistent. We did some checking on that, but we amended that code in 2017. to allow for this. Council approved this ordinance on first reading at the January 27th meeting, and it's before you for second reading this evening.
Thank you. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved, Mayor.
Councilwoman Gregory made the motion, and a second? Second, Councilwoman Price, second the motion. Thank you. Any comments from the public? Comments from the council? All those in favor? Motion passed. Thank you. Next, we have the final item. Is that right? The final item under old business, the second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance to allow emergency or transitional tiny homes. Mr. Beedenbow.
Thank you. It is an ordinance entitled an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance to allow emergency and transitional tiny homes. We had work sessions in October and November to review a draft of the proposed transitional tiny home ordinance. The ordinance will allow for dwelling units under 450 square feet to provide those options based on comments from council and stakeholders. The planning director has updated the ordinance for council approval. Some of the concerns raised by council, the chairman of the planning commission elaborated on. The planning commission was in agreement that the concept plan submittal process would be better to be reviewed by planning commission and city council rather than the board of zoning appeals, as was presented in earlier drafts of the ordinance. The planning commission restricted the tiny transitional home district to only isolated parcels currently zoned RML residential multifamily low density, RMH residential multifamily high density, and all commercial zoning districts except LM limited manufacturing, I industrial. If the proposed TTH, which stands for transitional tiny home district, is associated on the same parcel with a nonprofit entity, then zoning restrictions don't apply. The planning commissioners felt like the PR zoning district is not properly structured for a transitional tiny home TTH because of the minimum lot size required, open space requirements, and other requirements of the PR zone that are not consistent of the goals of the transitional tiny home use. If council desires to allow for for-profit entities to develop tiny home communities, it would be best suited for a separate additional ordinance to address. Council approved this on first reading in January 27th. It's before you for second reading this evening.
And thank you. So I need a motion, please.
I so move, Madam Mayor.
Councilwoman Broll made the motion. I need a second.
I second.
Councilwoman Diggs, second the motion. Any comments from the public? Comments from the council?
I have a comment, and I hope I'm not out of order, George, to do this. Some great things have been happening with the tiny homes, and a great thing happened today. They have an approval on a location for these tiny homes.
Wonderful.
It doesn't, it's not in your backyard type thing, but it is well suited with those folks who are having whatever issues you may come up with. It's in a location where they can be treated, can go to the grocery stores that they have, in addition to medical services as well. So thank you for gaining closure on that property.
Thank you.
And this is the same parcel you've been in discussions with the service agency for a while. Thank you.
Wonderful news.
It's great news.
We haven't voted.
Anyone?
Got to vote,
Anyone else on council?
or else it doesn't pass.
So, all those in favor? Motion passed. It's unanimous.
Now clap.
We have one item under new business this evening. It is first reading and public hearing of an ordinance to enter into development agreement with South Georgia Homes, LLC for water service. Mr. Beard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's an ordinance authorizing the city of Aiken to enter into a development agreement with South Georgia Home, LLC. This is along Outwire Road, just north of the city of Aiken, within our water district. The developers agreed to complete the water line extension and pay a portion of the expense related to their planned future development of 113.58 acres off Wire Road. The remainder of the expense will be reimbursed by the city from CPST funds as outlined in the attached development agreement. One of the things is this would add resiliency to our system. As we heard last time at our last work session 2 weeks ago, we talked about eliminating dead ends, looping the system. This is just another step to do that. And we have thousands of miles of water line, I believe. 700, okay, almost 1,000. I knew it was a large number, but again, by looping the system, it minimizes or if not eliminates issues that can cause breaks. So this development agreement is before council in the form of an ordinance for consideration.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Councilwoman Price and Councilwoman Gregory made the second motion. Comments from the public? Comments from council? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. We have no petitions and requests for city council tonight. So we will now open the floor to public comments on non-agenda items. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and for a total of 30 minutes. And thankfully, no one wants to talk. I appreciate that. We will now go into executive session. Are there any items from the city manager this evening?
I do not have any items this evening, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And if there are no other remarks from anyone, we will go into executive session. I will now read. The Aiken City Council will go into executive session pursuant to Section 30-4-70, parenthesis A, parenthesis 2, for discussion of negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangements and proposed sale of property. Specifically, City Council will discuss the proposed sale of real estate owned by the City of Aiken and known as the Hotel Aiken and surrounding properties. Is there a motion, please, to go into this executive
So
session?
moved.
Councilman Girardeau made the motion.
Second, Mayor.
And Councilwoman Gregory seconded the motion. All those in favor? That would be a unanimous vote. Thank you. We will now move into executive session.
That really didn't have to be that friggin' long. Idiots that came tonight that weren't here at the last.
the sign.
Wait.
Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Councilman Girardeau made the motion and Councilwoman Broll seconded the motion. All was in favor? Everyone's in favor. It's
I
a
voted
unanimous.
twice for Waltz.
Meeting is over.
My name is Ed.